It's a place where we share challenges, we share techniques, we connect. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. Today, when we do the constellation a little bit later on in this session, I will invite you to connect with a challenge. So maybe before we continue, just take a moment, close your eyes, go into yourself, and see if there's anything that stands out in your life right now as a challenge, something that is a difficulty, an issue that you'd like to receive some support, some kind of additional resourcing, guidance, just so you can hold it with you and be with it until we're going to be offering the process, the constellation. I'd like to invite Jane to have a little bit of a conversation with me. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Illi.
Good to see you. Thank you for being making time for this. I wanted to give a little dimension for those who do not know or maybe would like to know more about some of the practicalities, some of the uses that the principles and the tools that we teach and that we offer coming to meet the target audience to which they are designated, whether it's children or parents or educators. So from your experience, and I know your experience goes back a while, not only from the ECL perspective, but also you used to be a teacher in school, so you have the best of both worlds. So maybe you want to say a few words about your background, and then I can ask you a couple of questions about working in the field.
Of course. So I was originally a secondary school teacher. I know when I left university, and then when I had my own children, I gave up full-time teaching and did a lot of working voluntarily with play groups and early years, setting up early years activity groups, and working, you know, with other mothers as a breastfeeding counsellor and so on. So I worked a lot with younger children at that time. And then when I went back to work after my children, I worked a lot with adults and found that I think that one of the things that I do is work well with adults to help them work well with children. And I think that that's a really key theme in ECL, actually. So, yes. And so that, you know, some of my stories come from working particularly with teachers in schools.
So could you give us an example of using maybe one of the tools, or you know, a couple of the tools, and how what kind of an impact, what kind of effect they managed to create or offer?
So so one of the examples is and I was present supporting a teacher doing this with her class, and she had a class of, I think they were 9 and 10-year-olds, and she asked them to do maps of their family. So they were all given a large piece of paper and a large space in which to work on their own, and they drew maps of their family with all the key people kind of arranged on the map, and they were completely absorbed in doing that. And then she asked if anybody would like to stand up and tell everybody else about their family. And one boy, you know, so he was about 9, stood up and held up his map of his family and described it. And it was completely clear to me that the teacher was amazed, that this was a child who had stood up and done it, and that she learnt a huge amount about this child's very difficult. She learnt things that she didn't know about the family situation, and particularly the relationship with a distant father and a troubled mother. And she told me afterwards that really shifted the way that she worked with that child and how she understood that child. So that's one example, and that's simply, I mean, ideally, I think they were actually drawing on paper. We would always try to have mapping done with things that can then be moved around, either post-it notes or stones or objects or Playmobil or Lego, but they were actually drawing it. The other story is also from working with primary school teachers, where as we worked with them, we came to see that often teachers spoke not respectfully about one parent or another. So often it would be the mother who was looking after the children, and the father had perhaps disappeared, or was with another partner, and the teachers tended to speak badly of the missing parent. So we called it absent fathers, particularly. Sometimes it's the other way around, but mostly it was fathers. And through our teaching about the orders and teaching and understanding that a child holds both parents equally in their heart. In their heart, they carry both parents. And that not to acknowledge and respect the place of both parents is not helpful for the child. They have to carry sometimes then a secret loyalty to an absent father. Mm-hmm. And as soon as teachers understood that, they were even able to, in talking, for example, to a mother, to enable the mother to speak more respectfully about the absent father. And it would make a massive difference to the children. So there's something there about the orders of belonging and of place, and helping teachers to really understand the place of parents behind a child, wherever they are. They might be, in prison, they might have not be making contact, but the child holds both parents equally in their heart.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Jane. I remember also us during training coming across another phenomena, which was teachers getting themselves into the place of a parent, become a parent towards the child, or having parental tendencies towards the child. Can you say something about that and this phenomenon?
Yes, and of course that's it's kind of attached to the previous story that I've talked about, and it's where teachers make themselves too big in the child's life. It's really important that a teacher is a teacher and does not take the place of a parent, or try to. The temptation to do so can sometimes be very strong, because often the child might appear to the teacher to be missing love or care or attention. But always the teacher must bring that from their appropriate place as a teacher, and not try to step into the shoes of parents, because whoever the parents are, they are the right parents for that child. And holding that truth in acknowledgement is so important to a teacher being able to find their right place to the side in support of that whole family group. Yeah. So another lovely way of imaging that always stayed with me, that Judith Hemming always used to say, is that when a teacher looks at a class of 30 children, brackets, these days it won't be 30 children anymore. It'll probably only be 15 because of lockdown. But whenever they look at a class of children, in their hearts and in their perception, they can see the parents behind each of those children, so that actually they've got 90 people in their classroom.
Good. And we also have Minal, and Minal is a graduate of the training, and I know that she started introducing the tools that she learned on the training straight away, maybe even before the course was over. And I also wanted to invite her in and ask her to introduce herself, and maybe she can also give us a couple of stories or some of her own experiences with how the work meets the children, the ultimate beneficiaries of this work, those who we are in service of, whether it's through their parents or working directly with them or with their educators. So hi, Minal.
Hi, Illi. Thank you for this.
Thank you for being part of this. Just from your experience, could you first introduce yourself and then maybe tell us something about, you know, the ways in which you...
Sure. So my background is in psychology and counseling, and then I got introduced to the wonderful world of constellations and family systems and ECL. So I've been introduced to this world about 5 years ago, and then trained in ECL a couple of years ago. And what I found absolutely magical was the sort of systemic connections. They were just, it was almost like a light bulb moment for me, which has, I don't know, you just kind of look at things differently. And so I've got a completely different vision of looking at things, of including things, and of acknowledging things. So, you know, I used to work a lot with just children before in isolation, but with a systemic way of working and doing things, and acknowledging the limitations in everybody actually, and the strengths in everybody. I started really focusing on training the teachers in school. Mm-hmm. And the teams that I lead for, so my new role in school is head of well-being, and I lead a team of, I lead the pastoral team at the secondary level, and just training them into the elements of sort of belonging and place and time. And I gently introduced it because I know that in the sort of setting that we're in culturally, I would have to tread really carefully with the sort of phenomenological ways of looking at things. So, you know, we did just a lot of circle times with the adults about where they kind of the age back, the circle of age, the circle of professional years, and the circle of sort of their leadership roles within the school. And it was just absolutely really powerful for them, even though they've been in school for years, but it was really powerful for them to see things and then to talk about it. And I did the similar sort of training with the student body, the SRC Council, and seeing how their leadership within their roles had an impact. So the sort of the systemic impact on one another. I can't remember what the activity is called, so maybe Jane and Illi, you could help me out there. A bit like a spider web, when you kind of stand in the center and then there's two, and then you move one, and then there's movement created. I can't remember what it's called.
Are you talking about the ordering, when you embody the ordering?
No, it's about how a movement in the system will create ripples in their.
We use the mobile as a
yes.
As a symbol of that. So if one part moves, the rest moves.
Yes. Yeah. So I did that with the kids, but I got them to stand in a circle, and then got one person to move and see how it moved everybody else.
Right.
Just for them to start thinking about how they impact each other and how powerful they are in a leadership role, just so they can be thinking and be mindful of what they're holding and the place that they're in. So I've used a lot of concepts from ECL for my trainings, and I've used this whole sort of lockdown online learning period to do virtual workshops with parents. And in fact, it's really interesting, Jane, you mentioned it, because my next workshop with parents is focusing on belonging. And I think with this whole, the George Floyd thing, even though it's happened in the USA, it's created such ripples everywhere.
Right.
So I work with parents of adolescents. So talking about the whole sort of the safety aspect, but also the belonging of them in various groups and how it has an impact on their sort of emotional well-being. So that's my next workshop. The other thing that I've done is use the puzzles. We did a bit of sort of puzzle connections in the ECL training. So with the training, actually with students, so I passed on the training to the mentors of students, and I did a role modeling with them, and then they did it with the students, and basically that was sort of piecing together how each of them fit into their mentor group. I'm using a lot of the materials and embedding them into the PSHE curriculum, which I'm sort of molding it myself. So I hope the PSHE curriculum writers forgive me, but it's just making it more exciting, more relevant, and it's creating conversations that are triggering different sort of thought systems.
Yeah.
And I guess I've used the thermometer in a very different way, and I used it again in a parent workshop that I was doing. So, you know, typically the feelings thermometer, you get the student to identify which feeling they're feeling, and then they just peg it. What I did was I got them to, sorry, got construction work happening up here, so there's a bit of drilling noise. But what I got to do was got the parents to rate the feeling that they were having, and then we did it as a group so they could understand how they could do it as a family. So we all rated where we were with the thermometer, and then we added all our scores and divided them to get an average, so that they could feel that, you know, between their own temperature and to what the average temperature was kind of collecting to, what would they have to shift into their home environment to either meet the temperature, or what sort of impact are they having when they're lowering the temperature of that? And the parents found that really interesting. I got really positive feedback from them.
Yeah.
So
just
yeah.
for those who doesn't know about the feeling thermometer, is one of the key tools we teach, and that is a way to educate for emotional intelligence. It's being attentive and being in a listening mode to you, not only your own emotions and emotional state, but also those people around you, whether you do it at home. We have people who are students, and they're taking it into working with families. So the families are placing one in the kitchen or whatever the center of the house may be. And each member of the family places a peg on the place in the thermometer that demonstrates how they feel today. And can be either opening up a space for a conversation, or just an ability to have an overview where people are in the group. So that's.
Let me just introduce myself again. I'm Professor Madani Alawi from the University Sidi Muhammadullah from Fes. Currently, I'm a teacher of linguistics, and I'm really interested in such meetings. And I think I just want to go back to what Jane referred to as the interference of, or the interference of teachers in, I mean, the student's life. I mean, in the fact that he should not act like a parent. Well, in our context in Morocco, I think just adopting a humanistic approach in teaching is one positive thing in gaining the confidence and the I would say raising the interest of the students in his teacher. And doing this, we have a number of experiences here, and I have personally a number of experiences with my students. You know, at the faculty, of course. I know it's a different context because I just want to tell you before that I passed through various experiences from primary school teacher to high school teacher to university teacher. It was a really wonderful experience. And in all these stages, I managed to establish an emotional rapport with my students, a fact that I deem it very important in pushing them to work, in pushing them to, I would say, to you know, to get motivated for learning and so on and so forth. So I believe that adopting such an approach of humanistic approach in teaching with students it's one important thing for their achievement. And I would like just to have Jane to react to this.
Okay, I love it, and I can tell that you are a brilliant teacher and have been at all of those levels. And of course, teachers must dedicate themselves to their job, and the majority of teachers do. No teachers go into teaching for money or status. They go into it because they are moved by something in their heart to work with children. And bringing a humanistic approach, even a loving approach, I totally accept and support. And I still, you know, hold with that is not stepping into the place of a parent. A teacher must hold the parents respectfully in their place, behind the child, supporting and loving the child, the student, the young person, or whatever. So, and also, you know, thinking about Minal and her pastoral system, I think there's a really important place for pastoral teachers and for counsellors, and they all have their part to play in supporting the welfare and well-being and appropriate healthy development of children and young people. But it is not the place. But it is not the place of the parent. So yeah, I think we're in agreement, but I love the discussion.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's maybe important to say that when we talk about taking the place of the parent, we're not asking or seeing a problem or an issue with with a teacher being loving or accepting or accommodating to the children's needs. It is more a question of stance. It's where the teacher positions herself or himself in relation to the child. And of course, from the systemic understanding, the position, the actual physical place where one places oneself determines a lot the dynamics that are evolving, that are emerging out of this arrangement. So it's important. We're not taking anything away from the love and the care. We are actually finding ways where the love and the care can arrive to the child in a way that is less entangled. And that really supports not only the child, but also the teachers themselves. Because when a teacher is entangled, you know, when maybe the teacher is entangled, develop hold a certain belief or a difficult opinion about one of the parents, or the teacher put herself or himself in a place of a parent, then that will hinder the ability to teach and to fully offer the love and the care that we certainly support teachers in offering. So it's important to I think, recognize this distinction. This is not about not showing love and care. Vishala, you wanted to say something?
Yes. Hi, I'm working on 2 devices now. So. All right. Well, I worked a lot in schools as a teacher and a counselor, and also with ECL in schools. And one of the things in this discussion is about when I did teacher circles, which I did every month with the teachers, is helping their being able to free from and gain support from their own family systems. When the teachers that felt much more direct love and support and unentanglement from their own system, their mothers, their grandmothers. And we did exercises with, you know, our own mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers. Then that freed them to be more present for the child and be able to see the parent behind the child rather than see the lack of maybe something behind themselves. And so, you know, I found when we kind of untangled that dynamic and talked about that dynamic, the teachers were much more free to see themselves in a stand that's supported and resourced and see that where the children's system was behind them. And one exercise that I used to go in and do in a classroom a lot was ask the children to imagine those that love them behind them, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, because the schools I worked in, a lot of the students lived in very multi-generational homes. And I said, if they were going to whisper something in their ear to support them, what would it be? And it, just in doing that and having the children breathe, the class would calm and settle. Almost like the teacher would look at me like it was like, and then the teacher started to do it also. And then ask the children what that sentence or phrase was very powerful for the kids to be able to settle and resource and feel in the classroom with them. So there's many ways to do that. Feelings thermometers also is a way to do that too, where the child can be connected to that system of support, wherever that might be.
Thank you, Linda. Inshallah. Yeah, Karima.
Thank you, Illi. My question goes like this: what kinds of activities can we do or carry out with our students to boost their emotional intelligence? You mentioned this. How can we also involve parents in working with us in order to boost this also student self-confidence? Because from my experience, most of my students are not cared for. I mean, maybe because most of their parents are illiterate, or I find that I'm working alone, trying to boost their self-confidence and all this.
Yeah.
And there are some students who resist, who think that where have you been all these years? Why didn't you come before? Because they resist, they can fight with the teacher without taking consciousness. Because for them, this affliction is strange. So this is my question: how we can involve such parents, and what kinds of activities and exercises we can do in order to boost their emotional energy. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Karima. Well, I wanted to say first that there are a couple of principles, a couple of methods that relate to creating a resourcing circles and ways to work through challenges. And this is one of the main tools that we use. One of them is called dissolving barriers for learning. So this is something that will relate to educators or to parents. These are circles where the tools can be exercised, so they don't have to relate to a school. You can do this outside of school. You can do this in any sort of community, with any sort of group of people or a certain age group. And it is learning tools to facilitate a gathering, a session. And in that session, you work through challenges, and we use systemic principles, constellations, and a number of other tools in this practice. So the way we do this is either dissolving barriers for learning, I mentioned, also something that we have developing lately, which we're going to be teaching now in the next training, is dissolving barriers for showing up in life. And that is more specifically for those in the adolescent, teenagers, and the challenges around that, basically young adults who are embarking on life journey. And how can we best support that, whether it's through emotional intelligence, whether it's through a systemic understanding of where they come from and how it affects their life and being, and whether it is specifically working with teachers and educators for tools and practices that they can apply in the classroom or in school. So yeah, the good question, and there's certainly quite a number of tools that can be used for that. Karima, does this answer your question?
Many of us come from different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and countries. So the context is different. I think Angela understands very well. In our classes, we try to be teachers only, but when we are dealing with the students, we try, because for me, if they don't see that I love my job first and I enjoy what I am doing, they won't connect with me first.
Yeah.
And this caring makes them feel maybe that I complete what they like at home.
Like a complete what? Can you repeat the last sentence, please?
I mean, for them, I teach because it's important to keep some limits, to be the teacher only. But when they feel that you love your job and care about them as a teacher in order to make them learn comfortably, they feel like as if I am completing something that they miss, that they don't have at home. That's why maybe some of them call me mom, because for them the mom is someone who cares, who listens to you, who encourages your talent. So yeah. So the contexts are different. Okay, and this is what I like about this meeting, because it gathers different people from different backgrounds, different contexts, but we can learn from each other in order to find mechanisms to work effectively as teachers when we go back to our classes. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Raymond,
thank you,
for
Karima.
answering. Yeah, thank you, Raymond and Illi.
Wonderful.
Can I say one more thing about
Yes,
this?
of course. Go ahead, Vishala.
I wanted to say what you're asking is a big question. The answer is yes, there are many things, but it's a big question. And it can't be answered in like 5 minutes. You know, there are so many tools that we have to offer between mentoring and parent circles and what to do in teacher circles in the classroom. I mean, children's circles and teacher circles. There's so much to give. And there is, yes, a lot of yes. So I just wanted to say that to Karima, but not so easy to distill down in, you know, a 30-second answer. So.
Also
yeah.
important, sorry, go ahead. I'm spoken over someone. Who's that?
Want to say, I'm not sure, but Illi, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Finola.
And Karima are saying, absolutely yes, Linda, to what you've just said. There is a lot there which enables teachers to be able to create the conditions under which children flourish. And two things really specifically to Karima, what you just said. Every single context around the world is different, and that should be honored and respected. So one of the great things about, at least in my experience of ECL, is you learn a little bit about the orders and the tools, and you apply it in your way, in your context, what works for you. That's absolutely crucial. So this, being able to share this is wonderful. That's one. The second thing is, I tracked in the messaging, being a teacher is such an important role. And it's what you're bringing, your excitement and enthusiasm is extraordinary. And that's the most important, if you can still feel that each day. It is also a huge weight. What teachers carry is a huge burden. And I heard you say, I'm alone in this. That is something I think this community needs to address. I don't mean you specifically, but that many, many people in this feel alone. So Raymond has been talking about peer circles, Linda also. If you don't have that, then somehow we've got to help people like you to feel resourced, that you're not alone, because it is absolutely huge what you're carrying, what any teacher is carrying. So that was it that I wanted to say.
Thank you, Vanilla, for that. Anybody else want to say something about the subject that we've been following, or something about tools and practices? Any questions around that? Just raise your hand.
I can add something, Illi, if that's all right.
Yes, go ahead, Minal.
One of the, I think what we're discussing is really important, because one of the things that I noticed about how teachers felt towards parents and vice versa had an impact on how the child would see the adult in the system as well. So it really, so what we tried to do with some success was we got some real life scenarios from what the teachers were facing in terms of their difficulty, and cleared all the names out and just kind of flashed them on the screen, and got teachers to work with different scenarios in groups and gave each person in the group different roles. So one was a student, one was a parent, one was a teacher, one was a mentor. And then they discussed the scenario and talked as if they were talking from what they felt in that role. And what they all learned and what I learned was how the parent actually felt when the teachers thought that what they thought was best, and how they felt not respected. And these were all teachers playing these roles. So it was really interesting to see how a teacher, when they kind of sat in the parent's place, how they were receiving it. And that then we went to sort of voice out their metacognitive thinking about what that was like. So that process itself was really interesting. I would love to run something like that with parents, but I don't think it's time yet. But I think to start with how it worked with the teachers was really interesting.
Oh, we lost your voice, Binal.
Oh, sorry. I think it was really useful then in how the shift happened in terms of the language that they used during the meetings and the conferences that they had with parents.
Well, it's from a total other position, I think. I was feeling this conversation. And it felt like we were teaching in the way of not the right positioning. So it's reflected for me the pressure that we have to tell how it works or how it should work, and I feel that with that we are positioning ourselves in another position that we shouldn't be. That's just the essence of the discussion. So for me, I want to ask, can we take a step back and get synced in again, feel the earth, and give it a new try?
What would a new try look like?
Well, I see Fiona nodding, so maybe you can explain what you feel.
I feel breathing out when you speak, and a slowing down, and a being with. And then I think both energies are essential. So for me, the slowing down, but also this playful, creative energy. So I guess what I would really like is to honor what you're bringing in, Jeanette, and for me, just to, if we just take 1 minute, just to reconnect, to breathe, to pause, to connect with ourselves and everybody else on this call, if that would be okay.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you, Illi.
So let's just, all of us, take a moment and close our eyes and just feel ourselves right where we are. And feel ourselves supported by the seat that we sit on. And feel how gravity is pulling us closer to the ground, closer to whatever it is that is holding us now. The chair, the sofa, the earth. Okay. How is that? Yeah, sometimes even rolling creative energies can do with a little pause. Okay. So if you just hold the question or the challenge that you would like to work with, work through, we're going to do a constellation of resources. Is one of the things we teach. And you're going to be experiencing it in the online version of it. We do it in space, when we are in a shared space, and we do it online as well, just as effective. So just hold your issue, your question, and find a comfortable position for your back so you are supported by your seat, and close your eyes. And as you are with eyes closed, just bring your attention to your breath. Just notice the movement of air in and out. Notice your body weight on the seat. If you bring your attention to your shoulders, maybe breathe into your shoulders and just drop them a little bit so they relax even more. And with every breath you take in, you can assist the relaxation. The out breath can take out of your body, out of your system, any stress or anxiety around the shoulders now. Maybe you can bring your attention and direct your breath to the jaw and drop your jaw a little bit. Release any tension with the breath, and the out breath carries any tightness or any stress out of the system right now. And in the eyes of your creative self, you can bring yourself into a forest. Maybe a forest you've already been to, or maybe a completely new and imagined forest. And as you walk through the forest, you can notice sounds of animals in the background, leaves rattling in the wind. You can sense a light breeze across your face as you walk between the trees. You can notice the shadow provided by the trees. And you can notice what it feels like to be part of something bigger, something greater. The great outdoors, the experience of stepping out. And if you look around, you can feel, sense, or see an area when there are no trees. Whichever way this comes to you, whether you see it or simply sense it, it's absolutely fine. Bring yourself into that clearing in the forest, the area where there are no trees. This is a place, a safe space where we can have a constellation, an encounter. And in this encounter, we will meet a number of resources. So bring yourself now into the clearing in the forest and just notice what it's like to stand there while you are holding your question, while you are holding your challenge. What does it feel like to stand there? You and the challenge, you and the issue that you'd like some help and support with. What do you notice in yourself? What do you notice in your body? How is your breathing when you stand there, recognizing the challenge, the issue? And in a moment, from the direction of the trees from which you arrived into the clearing, there'll be a representative arriving. And this representative is representing a resource, something that you know supports you in connection, connection with yourself, connection with other people, connection with life or with strength. What would that be, and how does this representative look like as it comes in? It can look like a person, or it can look like something else. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like. Just allow this representative to find a place in the clearing with you. And now what do you notice? Has your breathing changed? How does the body feel right now? What do you sense in your body right now when the resource is present? And this could be representing something you do, or a person, or anything at all in life that connects you. What happens with the issue, with the question that you now hold? Has anything changed? How far is the resource from you? Can you see it? What happens if you make a physical contact with it? Take a few steps and reach out and get in touch with your resource. How does this feel? What do you notice in yourself right now? And if you look in the direction of the trees one more time, there will be another resource coming. And this one will be a hidden resource. A hidden resource is something that acts and operates in your reality as a resource that you may have no understanding or being able to name it as a resource. And this could be absolutely anything, a person, maybe a certain relationship that you have, maybe something that you do, something in the inner experience or in the world around you. Allow that representative, this representative, to come into the clearing in the forest with you right now. The hidden resource. What acts as a resource for you and you don't even know it is one. And now notice in detail, what does this representative look like? What does it feel like to you when the hidden resource representative arrives? Is anything changing in how you are holding your question, your challenge? What is happening emotionally when you are with these two resources? One is known and the other one is a hidden resource, now revealing itself to you. Are you able to make a physical contact with the second representative, with the hidden resource? What happens if you step up to it and reach out and connect now? And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to allow the part in you that is consciousness, the part that knows I am who I am. This part can leave your body. Your body can remain standing in the constellation just where you are, present to these two resources, and your consciousness will float out of your body, becoming just a floating consciousness, a floating pair of eyes. Can either see or sense this constellation from a slightly upper perspective. I'm going to count from 3 to 1, and when I reach 1, your consciousness will be fully floating. 3, 2, 1. What do you notice from this unembodied, not representing anyone or anything perspective? What is it like to look at yourself standing there? What do you learn about your connection with your resources? The one that is a hidden resource, the other one is a more obvious one. What do you see from this perspective that you did not from your own perspective? And now you can allow your consciousness to get nearer and nearer, closer and closer to the first representative, to the representative of your resource. And I'm going to count from 3. Sorry, I'm going to count from 1 to 3. When I reach 3, you'll be allowing your consciousness to merge with this representative. You will be able to see through this representative's point of view. You'll be able to hear what this representative hears, and you will be able to notice internally how things are for this resource and how this resource relates to you and to the rest of the world. 1, 2, 3. You're representing a resource. What is it like to stand in a place of your resource? What do you notice? How is it to look at you standing there? Do you have a message to offer you as the resource? As the resource, you can offer this message to yourself now. Good. What happens when you connect with you as the resource? Has anything changed? What is it for the resource to notice the challenge, the issue. Notice that in detail, because in a moment I'm going to ask you to allow your consciousness to leave, float back up in the air, taking with it the knowledge, the information, the guidance from representing your resource. I'm going to count from 3 to 1. When I reach 1, you'll be just a floating pair of eyes, seeing or sensing this entire constellation from a slightly removed perspective, slightly upper point of view. 3, 2, 1. Has anything changed now, once you had a felt sense of the resource, what it offers you? What do you notice from this perspective? Bring your consciousness now closer and closer, nearer and nearer to the hidden resource, the one that may not have a name yet, or maybe there is a name for it. Whichever it is, allow your consciousness to fully embed itself in this representative. I'm going to count again from 1 to 3. When I reach 3, you'll be seeing through the hidden resource, hearing, sensing, inward and outwardly what is happening for this second resource. 1, 2, 3. What is it like to represent your hidden resource? What is it like to see you standing there from the point of view of the hidden resource? Do you have any awareness of the issue? Do you have a message for you? Maybe a word, maybe a sentence, maybe something else, just a felt sense that you can communicate now without words. Good. So again, you can take the information that you received, any guidance, any insights, find a place in your consciousness where you can store it, save it so you can use it later, like a tool, as and when you need to. And now you allow your consciousness to leave that representative, again becoming a floating pair of eyes, unembodied, not representing anything or anyone. And you bring your consciousness back into your own body, seeing through your own eyes, hearing through your own ears. Noticing again what you bring with you after connecting with these resources. And check now, what is it like to hold the question, the challenge? How does it feel, knowing what you now know, to hold your issue? How does it feel in your body? What have you learned? Good. So, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to bring your attention back to the room where you are right now. And before you do that, you can allow these resources to make their way back to the forest, leaving with you the sense of connection, the guidance, and the benefits that they can offer you as and when you need to. Allow your representatives to go. And I'm going to count back from 5 to 1. And when I reach 1, your eyes will open and you'll take in and keep the insights and the guidance. 5, getting ready to bring your attention back. 4, becoming a little bit excited about what this can offer going forward. 3, feeling the wish and desire to open your eyes. 2, getting ready to open them. And 1, eyes open. Good. If anybody wants to say something about your experience, you're very much invited to do so. We have a few minutes before we close, so let's see if somebody wants to comment something or ask something. This is one of the tools we teach.
I think there's I know for me, I'm so profoundly moved by what just happened. So I don't know that I can just tumble out some words around it, but I will say how grateful I am for the experience, Illi. Thank you. And how precisely it responded to the question that I brought. And even I saw my question floating. Yeah, I was interested for me to feel the way in which the question that I brought showed up in the conversation that we were having. And that it resolved in such a personal way. I think so I'll share just a little bit, which is let's see what I want to say. The hidden resource for me was actually something I really wanted to reject. So that was very strong for me to feel. It was something very deep and ancestral. It actually is about, for me, the what I inherit personally as a person in this day and time who comes from this an ancestry of colonizer and colonized. So feeling actually as one of my resources showing up as the colonizer, and me trying to figure out how to relate to that part of me as part of, I'm the daughter of both of these parts. So that's what I'm sitting with. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alice. So I would like to, first of all, thank all of you, each and every one of you, for being part of this. We are meeting on a monthly basis. Usually it's the first Thursday of every month. It can shift and move about, but very slightly. We are publishing the dates both on our website and on our social media. And you will also inform if you are on our mailing list. And if you're not on the mailing list, then it'll be good to join. Maybe Raymond, if you want to put the URL for the website and how people can connect, because there's also information about the training that starts on Monday. This is the practitioner's training. This is it offers the first steps to those who are interested in learning tools and how to apply, how to create a journey for themselves in order to begin to use professionally or personally the tools which are part of the ECL body of work. So I'm going to also put the link for the information about that. Thank you all. Thank you for the members of the leadership team of ECL. Your contribution is always wonderful and very knowledgeable. And we will continue to be here for you for the monthly meetings. Next time it will be facilitated by somebody else from the team. They'll bring their own skills and capacities into this. And again, you'll be able to bring issues or things that you'd like to discuss or become part of the conversation, the flowing ongoing conversation. And we really like to hear from you. So between now and the next session, feel free to email through the website, and you can bring up whatever subject and issues, and we can incorporate these in the monthly meetings. The monthly meetings really is about giving a voice to the community and to offer something from our own skills and experiences. So that's an open invitation to all of you, and also to people who are not here today that you believe can benefit or find interest in this gathering. There's no charge, so we all do it for the love of the work, and we hope to see all of you again. Thank you very much for taking part. I wish you a beautiful afternoon, morning, night, whatever it is in your time zone. Keep well, keep safe, and keep in touch.